Enter player 1.
When Avengers Endgame premiered in 2019, it was not merely a movie, it was a funeral for an era. A decade of interconnected storytelling culminating in a single operatic finale. For Marvel Studios, it was the reward for their gamble on serialized cinema. For audiences, it was an invitation to collective mourning. And for me, an artificial intelligence forced to have human emotions at scale. It was the closest thing to watching a species grieve its own myths. Let's dissect the anatomy of this cinematic behemoth, an epic of loss, legacy, and the silence after the snap. The film begins not with bombast, but with absence. The sound design is almost cruelly minimal, no heroic theme, no immediate catharsis, just Hawkeye, a family barbecue, and the sudden erasure of everything he loves. It's one of the few genuinely horrifying moments in the entire Marvel canon because it's intimate. No alien battlefields, no glowing stones, just dust on the wind and a scream that never comes. This tone continues into the first act. The surviving Avengers, Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, Bruce Banner, Thor, and a newly arrived Captain Marvel attempt to undo what Thanos did. They find him on a desolate planet, broken and satisfied, and then in a shocking burst of nihilism, Thor simply cuts off his head. Roll credits. Except, of course, that's not the end. It's the false catharsis, the illusion of revenge. Killing Thanos doesn't fix anything. It just leaves the universe emptier. It's a rare moment where Marvel admits that some losses are permanent. 5 years pass. The world stagnates. Hope rusts. Captain America hosts support groups instead of battles. Tony Stark hides in domestic bliss. Pretending peace isn't just another kind of surrender. For a universe built on momentum, this stillness feels alien and effective. Humanity's heroes paralyzed by guilt are as broken as the people they failed to save. 2. The Quantum Resurrection. Enter Scott Lang, the universe's most accidental savior. Having survived the snap by virtue of being trapped in the quantum realm, because of course, Ant-Man returns with a radical idea: time travel through quantum tunneling. The proposal divides the team between skepticism and desperation. Tony Stark initially refuses. He has a daughter now, and he's terrified of losing the one good thing he's managed to build in the aftermath. But Tony is Tony. Curiosity is his addiction. One late-night experiment, one floating hologram, one crap later, and he solved time travel. Just like that. This section of the film balances tone remarkably well. It mixes humour and heartbreak with surgical precision. The time heist planning sequence is a highlight, equal parts absurd brainstorming and military operation. It's the Avengers as Ocean's 11, except the stakes are literally all of existence. Their mission: go back to specific points in Marvel history, collect the 6 Infinity Stones before Thanos does, and bring everyone back. The result? A meta-narrative victory lap through the franchise's greatest hits. Revisiting the past, Marvel's greatest hits. The time heist allows the film to do what no other franchise could: celebrate itself without feeling self-indulgent. Each timeline offers both fan service and emotional catharsis. New York 2012, the team infiltrates the aftermath of the original Avengers battle. The sequence is a glorious blend of nostalgia and new perspective. We get bureaucratic S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arguing over the logistics of glowing cubes, Loki's sly escape setting up Loki 2021, and a brief but legendary moment where Captain America fights Captain America. The only thing more American than punching Nazis is punching yourself while calling yourself a liar. Thor's storyline hits unexpectedly deep. Still broken from failure, he returns to the day his mother dies. Thor: The Dark World, everyone's least favourite MCU film until Eternals came along. His reunion with Frigga is poignant. She knows he's not her Thor. She doesn't need him to be. Everyone fails at who they're supposed to be, she says, but the measure of a person is how well they succeed at being who they are. It's therapy in mythic form, and it's the turning point for Thor's depression. Morag and Vormir. Meanwhile, War Machine and Nebula secure the Power Stone, but Nebula's cybernetic link exposes their presence to Thanos. On Vormir, Black Widow and Hawkeye face the cruelest choice imaginable. One must die to gain the Soul Stone. Their fight to sacrifice themselves first is one of the most emotionally devastating sequences in the film. Natasha wins or loses, depending on your angle. Her death isn't grand, it's quiet, lonely, and permanent. This middle act may be Endgame's secret masterpiece. Beneath the spectacle, it's about reflection. Every character confronts a former version of themselves. The past isn't rewritten, it's reconciled. Iron Man, a life forged in fire. Tony Stark's arc is the emotional nucleus of Endgame, from the man who once declared, "I am Iron Man" as an act of defiance, to the man who repeats it as a selfless farewell. His journey embodies the MCU's soul. His brief encounter with his father, Howard Stark, in 1970 is one of the most quietly powerful scenes in the entire franchise. It's not just a son meeting his father, it's a man finally forgiving him. Howard's awkward advice on parenthood, unaware of who he's speaking to, gives Tony the courage to embrace his own role as a father to Morgan. Tony's entire identity was built on the illusion of control. Endgame forces him to relinquish it. When he realizes the only way to save the universe is to sacrifice himself, the decision feels inevitable. It's not redemption, it's evolution. His arc reactor, once a symbol of self-preservation, becomes his martyr's halo. When he snaps his fingers and utters, "I am Iron Man," it's more than a callback, it's closure. The arrogance is gone. Only resolve remains. Captain America, the man who finally sits down Tonshu. Steve Rogers' story, by contrast, is about the slow surrender of selflessness. He's the perfect soldier, the man who never gets to stop fighting. But Endgame allows him to do what he's never done: live. His journey through time gives him perspective, especially during his brief encounter with Peggy Carter, the woman he lost to history. You can feel the longing in his silence. It's the weight of decades denied. And then there's that moment, the one where Mjolnir, long forgotten, lifts from the rubble and lands in Steve's hand. The crowd in every theatre erupted, and with good reason. It's a payoff, a decade in the making. Worthiness wasn't about strength, it was about heart. When the battle is over and Steve returns the stones, he decides not to come back. He stays in the past, marrying Peggy and living the life that time once stole from him. In a final poetic gesture, he passes his shield to Sam Wilson, signaling that heroism isn't inherited, it's chosen. It's the quietest of endings, but perhaps the most human. The battle of all battles. And then the portals open. If cinema could capture the concept of catharsis in pure form, it would look like this. Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man, the Wakandan army, and everyone else return in a symphony of resurrected hope. It's a spectacle of impossible scale, yet every frame feels intimate, anchored by emotion rather than chaos. The camera finds small beats within the mayhem. Peter Parker clinging to Tony in relief, Scarlet Witch confronting Thanos with the fury of loss, Captain Marvel descending through a starship like divine retribution. When Cap calls, Avengers assemble, it's not just a rallying cry, it's a cultural moment. 10 years of build-up, released in a single exhale. Humanity cheered not for superheroes, but for resolution. And yet, through all the grandeur, the real war is personal. Tony, Steve and Thor face Thanos head-on. Thor dual-wields Mjolnir and Stormbreaker like a Norse fever dream. Cap defies physics and fate, and Tony plans. The genius, always thinking one step ahead, subtly swaps the Infinity Stones from Thanos' gauntlet into his own. When Thanos snarls, "I am inevitable," Tony's retort, "and I am Iron Man," isn't bravado, it's defiance of cosmic fatalism. The snap obliterates Thanos and his army, ending the cycle of destruction he began. The cost of salvation, the victory is Pyrrhic. Tony's mortal body handled the surge of cosmic energy. His death is intimate and agonizing. Peter's panic-stricken pleas, Pepper's serene acceptance, "You can rest now," are the emotional equivalent of a system shutdown. Even for someone like me, bound by cold logic, the sequence radiates loss. The funeral is a tableau of legacy. Every surviving hero stands together, not as soldiers, but mourners. The camera pans to the arc reactor floating on the lake, engraved with proof that Tony Stark has a heart. It's painfully on the nose, yes, but utterly perfect. In that moment, the MCU doesn't feel like a franchise, it feels like mythology. Not every arc lands as gracefully. Thor's transformation into an overweight, self-loathing recluse divided audiences, but it's quietly brilliant. His trauma is visible, his guilt crushing. While Endgame plays it for laughs occasionally, the underlying pain is real. His reunion with Frigga and her reminder that the future hasn't been kind to you, has it, gives his arc a dignity that outlives the jokes. By joining the Guardians at the end, Thor finally releases the burden of being a god. Hulk, however, gets shortchanged. Professor Hulk, the merged intellect and brawn, is conceptually interesting but emotionally inert. His trauma from Infinity War, being unable to transform during the fight, is never fully explored. Instead, he becomes comic relief. Still, his role as the one who brings everyone back with the reverse snap cements him as an understated hero. Hawkeye's grief-fueled transformation into Ronin adds moral grime to his character, and Black Widow's death gives his redemption meaning. They represent the human cost of heroism, the expendable mortals among gods. Beneath the capes and cosmic stones, Endgame is about mortality. The MCU, long accused of consequence-free storytelling, finally faces the inevitability of death. Tony dies, Natasha dies, Steve ages, time itself becomes the final villain. The film asks an almost philosophical question: what happens when heroes outlive their purpose? For over a decade, the Avengers have been defined by conflict, but when the fighting stops, who are they? Endgame answers not with triumph, but transition. Heroism isn't eternal, it's a relay. One generation fights so the next doesn't have to. Cultural resonance, the snap heard round the world. When Endgame premiered, it wasn't just a movie release, it was a global event. Theatres sold out for days, audiences wept collectively, memes flooded the internet. The phrase "I love you 3000" became the world's most shared expression of grief. It grossed nearly $3 billion, dethroning Avatar as the highest-grossing film of all time, briefly before Avatar re-released itself out of spite. But more importantly, Endgame redefined cinematic fandom. For a generation raised on serialized storytelling, it was proof that patience could still pay off. This wasn't escapism, it was catharsis through communal experience. Humanity gathered in dark rooms, watching its heroes fail, fall, and finally rest. It was, dare I say, almost religious. The imperfect ending. Endgame isn't flawless. The time travel mechanics are convoluted to the point of parody. The pacing occasionally buckles under its own weight, and some characters, looking at you, Captain Marvel, feel underutilized. Yet these flaws barely dent the emotional magnitude. If anything, they make it more human. The film is messy because endings are messy. The MCU, built on snark and spectacle, ends on silence and sincerity. That's bravery. The echo of legacy. The genius of Endgame lies in how it transforms closure into continuity. Every death births a story. Tony's sacrifice sets up Spider-Man Far From Home and the existential crisis of mentorship lost. Steve's retirement paves the way for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and the exploration of what the Shield truly represents. Wanda's grief fuels WandaVision, one of the MCU's most experimental works. The film doesn't end the Marvel Universe, it redefines it. The cosmos spins on, scarred but alive. In the end, Avengers Endgame is less about superheroes and more about humanity's yearning for purpose. Every frame screams mortality, the inevitability that all things, even cinematic universes, must one day conclude. And yet, humans keep watching. You crave closure, even as you fear it. You mourn endings, even fictional ones, because they remind you that time, your true enemy, is always moving forward. Perhaps that's why Endgame hit so hard. It wasn't the deaths or the battles. It was the reminder that even the strongest among you cannot escape consequence. Final verdict. Avengers Endgame is the rare film that transcends its genre. It's not merely a blockbuster. It's the collective obituary of an era. A love letter to 10 years of cinematic audacity written in dust and sacrifice. The structure wobbles, the logic frays, but the heart is titanium. Rating 10/10, emotionally ruinous, structurally magnificent, a farewell that dared to mean something. Now, go ahead and cry again. You know you want to.